The conversation on climate resilience is shaping the global narrative in 2024, and as collective awareness of environmental challenges increases, the shift towards green economy has become a key priority. Across Africa, the green economy holds the potential to drive economic growth, create jobs, and reduce poverty while preserving the environment, but hurdles on financing are still deterring this target. In this episode of Invest Rwanda, we focus on iReme Invest, an investment facility that works with Rwanda's private sector to support green business growth and boost the country's response to climate change, offering monetary support to position Rwanda as a leader in the global green economy. In November 2022, at the COP27 in Egypt, President Paul Kagame launched iReme Invest, a facility for private and public contributions towards investments into Rwanda's commitment of building a green economy. The facility received a total of $100 million commitments into the country's green fund after the launch, and it has since revolutionized Rwanda's goal of fostering a sustainable investment environment.
BRD now is actually embarking on green finance, so it's a new principle, it's a new approach that we are taking. So being mindful that whatever we are doing is also has an impact on the environment, so we had to now to think of introducing the green finance. So we are providing financing, but actually targeting projects that are actually addressing issues of environment or even mitigating or being adapted to the current situation of the climate. So we are actually managing the facility, so we means that any client that is looking for financing for project that is green, so they can approach BRD and then they get finance.
From clean energy, smart mobility, sustainable cities, climate-smart agriculture to circular economy, iReme Invest has revolutionized the financing model of sustainable investment in Rwanda. The facility has supported Rwanda's private sector to access green finance and increase its contribution to Rwanda's response to climate change in partnership with the Rwanda Development Bank, BRD.
We are very much interested in clean energy. So we are also in smart mobility, as you're saying. And also we are also very much interested to finance the sustainable cities, green buildings and so on. And also climate smart agriculture, which is also a key sector that is very critical, but as well waste and circular economy. So those are actually the main areas that we are focusing on. So far we have financed quite a number of projects. So far we have financed sustainable green buildings. We have now financed the smart mobility, electrical vehicles, and also we have other projects in pipeline that most are varying from green buildings, smart mobility, even clean energy. So far we have disbursed close to 3.2 billion to projects that were actually ready at the time we started. But also we have approved facilities amounting to 20 billion francs. And we hope by end of this year we'll have started dispersing part of the funds that we have approved, close to around 6 billion. And also we have a pipeline that we expect to be materialized even next year. So we are seeing an appetite. We are building pipeline as we also continue to educate the market on the green finance component.
At the core of iReme's plan are two financial instruments: the Project Preparatory Facility, hosted at the Rwanda Green Fund and offering grants, recoverable grants, and equity to facilitate the transition from feasibility to bankability. And secondly, the Credit Facility, hosted at the Development Bank of Rwanda, BRD, which provides concessional loans and credit guarantees.
So actually we have so far been able to mobilize close to 40 million euro. And we also have different partners that we are discussing that are actually very willing to invest through providing also affordable financing. So this is something that we think is actually going to grow as we also continue to educate the market for people, actually the market, private sector, to understand the need of going green, and also to be able to start now putting together some projects that are green. And we hope that this is something that is going to grow. And actually we started it as BRD, and we are also trying, we are still learning, to understand, also to discuss with the market, see the challenges that are in and fix different challenges. And we expect also that other also financial institutions will join the move. And by the time they start joining, then we'll be able to grow. But as BRD, this is actually something that we see going forward. That's why we are putting more efforts to make sure that whatever we are financing is actually green. So we have some targets to have our portfolio at least 30% green in the next 3 to 4 years. Yeah, I think the first challenge is actually the market to understand, because there is so many requirements to go green. So you could see the market to buy in is not something that easy. But again, we are seeing a very positive move. I would say that was the first challenge, which we are still also working on. But the way you see, actually we are building the pipeline, so we have confidence that the market is actually being responsive to the green finance. Other thing is actually the regulatory framework that needs to be put in place. For instance, if you want to certify a building that is green, can we have probably our own local standards instead of maybe using the international standards, so to try to make it simple as much as possible. So as I said, taxonomy is also being discussed to have a comprehensive regulation, laws and regulations in place. So I think those are the key challenges, but again, we are seeing very much focus being from the government, being from private sector, to make sure that whatever we are meeting as challenges, so those challenges are being addressed.
Through the credit facility, eligible projects in green growth can benefit from loans and credit guarantee with a 12% rate, a tenure of 12 years, and a possible grace period of up to 2 years. BRD has also used the sustainability-linked bonds to drive this agenda.
Last year, we decided to issue a sustainability-linked bond. The sustainability-linked bond, on top of being the first one by a public development bank in the world, it was also the first SLB in East Africa. So what we've done is we've created a new asset class for Rwanda as a sustainable finance destination. The bond performed very well. It was oversubscribed by about 110%. It drew investors from across the country, both institutional and retail investors. And so we're encouraged by that, and that is why this year we are back again on the market. We have a program with the Capital Markets Authority worth 150 billion. Last year we raised 30 billion. This year we're trying to raise another 30 billion. So that signals to the market that we're going to become a regular issuer. BRD will be active in the capital markets, will support the government's efforts to deepen the capital markets, and that's what brings us to the market this time. So we'll maintain the same KPIs from last year, and these are, one is mainstreaming environmental and social management systems across the financial sector with the financial institutions we work with. The second is around increasing access to finance for women-led SMEs. The baseline from last year when we set the bond was 15%, and we want to double that to 30% by 2028. The final one is around increasing access to affordable housing. We're looking to increase that from 544 last year to 13,000 in 2028. So this is requiring BRD to really stretch itself, and that's why we are trying to raise the necessary resources to support this. And we're encouraged by the interest in the last bond, and even from what we're seeing already from the interest from this bond, we're confident that we'll achieve these KPIs by 2028. The bond is supported by the World Bank through concessional financing, which will help us blend the cost of the financing that we raise in the market which is not concessional, with the World Bank funds, which are concessional, to arrive at a pricing that is a bit palatable for the private sector.
The partnership signed between BRD and iReme is part of effort to supercharge Rwanda's transition to smart and electric mobility and represent a significant step toward in the country's commitment to reduce greenhouse emissions and achieve carbon neutrality by 2050.
Bboxx Rwanda was able to bring in 4 units, and in a nutshell we have been able to cover 1.4 kilometers in distance, been able to carry 2 million passengers within both countries of Rwanda and Kenya, and also we have been able to make a revenue for Rwanda of over 200 million Rwandese francs. So the beauty about Bboxx is we look at operators as our strong partners. We identify the challenges they have there in operations, and we tailor a solution that works best for them. Electric buses, number one, are able to help in reductions of the operations. Another challenge that we find with operators is they have a high up cost front of purchasing the buses. So we came up with an innovative solution of a pay-as-you-drive, where we ask our operators to give a deposit, a very small deposit we can call it, and the rest is paid through their mileage-based achievements. So that was able to onboard quite a few operators within our operations in Rwanda, and that's been a success. Also, as Bboxx, we have a holistic approach where we don't just give you the bus, but we also ensure that we work with you close hand in hand in terms of performance of the drivers. We also make sure that we review your routes to make sure that you have a holistic approach. And also the main advantage we have is we do the servicing and charging of these vehicles, which takes a huge chunk of operations away from them, so they're able to focus on other parts, whilst we focus on their operations to make their day-to-day activities a success.
Bboxx Rwanda is one of the beneficiaries, having received $225,000 grant from iReme Invest to be used by Bboxx to upgrade its charging infrastructure needed to support its rapidly growing fleet of electric public transport buses in Kigali.
Earlier this year, we were able to secure a grant of around 300 million Rwandese francs, which is around $225,000. This was focally for the charging infrastructure setup within our operations. One of the main things you will see in the e-mobility business is there is a fear of range in terms of how long the bus can go. So this support has been able to upgrade our charging infrastructure to accommodate now 20 charging units. So that means we can be able to charge a wider fleet, not just in Kigali, but also be spread around the whole of Rwanda. For us, we are very happy and privileged to work here because when the government is very forward in terms of their strategies and policies, that has made it very advantageous for us to work here. One, as you can already see, we have access to green funding for such of our initiatives. The government is also supportive in terms of some subsidies, in terms of imports of these electric vehicles, and also the charging infrastructure. Other countries around the region go about 35% in taxation, whereas us, we're able to manage that in terms of our operations, which makes Rwanda a hub. And as you already know, Rwanda has been very vocal and strong in closing each project mile that they reach, which really we align with in terms of our company goals. So we are very happy, and also with the support of RDB, I know how it is very easy to start a business and operate a business in Rwanda, which has made it a very great initiative for us to be here in Rwanda. Bboxx Rwanda was able to look at a 360 approach of being a one-stop center for our bus operators. So as Bboxx, we don't just give the operators a bus, but we have a holistic approach with working them on a day-to-day basis in terms of, one, their pay-as-you-drive finance solution. We have the services and charging infrastructure, and also we have day-to-day real-time data performance of the drivers and the routes to really see how we can be able to improve their performance on a monthly basis. So we didn't just look at it at one angle, we looked at it as a whole approach, which makes it beneficial for us and our bus operators to have a very long-lasting relationship in terms of the operations.
Another company that is part of iReme's sustainability goals is Bboxx, a company that provides electricity and other essential services to more than 10% of Rwandan households. The products include pay-as-you-go solar-powered water pumps, smartphones, and clean cooking solutions, among others.
It's evolved. That's actually quite from a viewpoint as to when it didn't actually exist at all, to where sustainability has taken the forefront here in terms of what we're actually trying to do. The governmental efforts to support sustainability have also really helped accelerate this process. Because obviously when you look at sustainable development, if you don't have support from the infrastructure, then it's very hard for you to do it if you're just looking at it from a private sector perspective. So the involvement of BRD, the support of the government locally in terms of looking at green initiatives and providing financing and working with the World Bank and various development agencies to make this work has actually grown exponentially in Rwanda over the last few years. So iReme, I would say, is partnering with Bboxx right now. So we're going through a process right now to actually see how we tap into the funds that iReme have to offer and how they work with us. So we're working with them right now on a transaction. What they've got in place is fantastic, and the ability for them to support the infrastructure here in Rwanda is pretty key. So we're tapping into that, and we're working with them both from not just from a financial perspective, but also on a policy perspective. And because we have that last mile approach where we're actually in the villages, we're actually on the ground, we can also provide direct feedback to them as to how we can help make the processes and the deployment more efficient.
Rwanda has an ambitious climate action plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 38% by 2030. Achieving this will require investment of approximately $11 billion made up of $5.7 billion for mitigation and $5.3 billion for adaptation. This plan has drawn several investors to Rwanda as it gears up to support green economy.
I think some of the things that we're actually doing, like, as I said, moving on to e-mobility, where we're actually looking at lithium-powered batteries to power our bicycles or our motorcycles, is one way of getting rid of greenhouse emissions. There's a lot of work to be done, and obviously to start that work, you need to have funding and grants and a tax regime that is encouraging to do that, because otherwise you have the traditional things, and when you have the traditional implements in place, there's a cost to people to exchanging them from to something that is, greenhouse emission friendly. So it's also then making sure that the crossover from one to the other is beneficial, otherwise people won't do it. That the problem is not just Rwanda, the problem is Africa based as well. In certain instances, going green is almost more expensive than doing stuff in the traditional way, right? So you're looking to leapfrog a process because everybody's gone through the industrial revolution and going through to, the fossil fuels, and then you're trying to leapfrog to what is greenhouse emission friendly, and that can be quite expensive. So that requires funding, it requires subsidies, it requires education as well, and it also requires patience. I think one of the problems that we have generally in the continent is that we want to go from A to B in 5 minutes. And unfortunately, there's a process. So we do have to go through that process. But I think with the right infrastructure in place, I go back to the regulatory environment, with the support from the regulatory environment, with the support from the global DFIs and the World Bank, then it's totally possible. Our plans right now are to stabilize, to make sure that we're in 4 different product lines, is to make sure that we can do all the things that we're doing and do them well. As I said before, our solar home systems is our staple. Smartphones have taken on really well, but it's an ongoing transactional thing. I think from a greenhouse perspective, I'm really excited about e-mobility and about the clean cooking possibilities. Clean cooking because in the main, it has real health benefits. You know, we have, when you go outside of Kigali, you go into the villages and you see the number of people that are still cooking with charcoal and breathing in that poisonous gas, and obviously then having an impact. And it has a huge impact as well, still on, disproportionately on women.
In line with Rwanda's sustainability goals, the construction of the Kigali Innovation City officially began in September after the government of Rwanda concluded negotiations with key project sponsors, including Badea and Africa 50. This $300 million project is set to position Kigali as a regional innovation hub, bringing in a state-of-the-art smart city in Kigali.
First, what you heard from the minister, from the prime minister, a vision and the clarity and the direction they want out of the project. It's always very comforting for any lender to go to a country when the country knows what it wants and then describe it in a way that it was done sort of earlier. I think second, a lot of countries in Africa talked about smart cities, but they haven't actually implemented it. The fact that Rwanda is doing it, they talk the talk and walk the walk, and it's very comforting as well. So if you look at the project, it has so many different components that speak to us. Number one, it creates jobs. It empowers young people, skill enhancements. But more importantly, it positions Rwanda as a hub when it comes to innovation and technology. Obviously, the rest of Africa is watching. If it's successful here, this is something certainly we want to replicate elsewhere. Last but not least, it's a project that reflects the combination of strategic partnership of all different players. You get academia, you get public sector, you get private sector as well involved, you get universities. All these things really shows that when different stakeholders come together and support a vision of the country, you get the kind of project that we have here. And that's why we're super excited to be involved along with Africa 50 in supporting this great initiative. At this stage, the priority for the government is to really build the infrastructure. And that's why, along with Africa 50, we're actually providing capital at Badea, along with Africa 50, provide the support the government needs to build the infrastructure of the project. And that's why we're here in the early days of the project, showing our commitment to the country, but also demonstrating that we are in for the long run, and that's why we're delighted to be involved. $13 billion for the past 50 years in Africa. Sustainability is really always a driving force in our project. But more importantly, the world is about to meet in Baku for COP29, where adaptation and mitigation is important. So Badea is strongly committed in making sure that all of our projects contribute to reducing the greenhouse gases, but more importantly, in making sure that we can adapt and build resilient cities. And what we're doing here in Rwanda, it's a good example. If you do it successfully, we can demonstrate you can actually do business in the city, but at the same time be environmentally sustainable. So we're super excited about this opportunity.
Pan-African infrastructure investor and asset manager Africa 50, being one of the key sponsors of the development of the Kigali Innovation City, KIC, sees great potential in Rwanda's sustainable development. The master project, once completed, will host residential, commercial, retail, and educational assets for local and international businesses and institutions, acting as a technology innovation hub for Rwanda and Africa.
Kigali Innovation City will be the roadmap and the blueprint for smart cities on the continent. And importantly, smart cities that incorporate sustainability, green infrastructure, that create an ecosystem, right? Because as everybody was saying earlier today, it's very easy to have the buildings, but critically, it's about all the various players. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, right? You've got the universities that bring in the academia, that bring in the talent. You've got the companies that hire the talent in order to develop and promote the startups and get projects from concept to actual execution. You've got other players that are consumers and users of this talent. Early on the panel, we had ANSYS, so we're very excited about creating this ecosystem that is going to help diversify the Rwandese economy, but importantly, really position Africa, African talent, and African innovation overall.
Rwanda, known for its strong commitment to environmental sustainability, initiatives such as reforestation, renewable energy projects, and green infrastructure is paving the way for a more sustainable future.
KIC as an initiative is poised to have meaningful impact. In fact, we expect that at its peak, we will have more than 50,000 jobs created right here. We expect that with the investments that are going to come into this place, we will have more than $150 million of exports in technology and innovation services, making Rwanda competitive globally in the technology marketplace. KIC will foster academic excellence to promote human capital as the cornerstone of our economic development.
At the just concluded Africa CEO Forum, IFC signed an advisory partnership with the government of Rwanda to support the growth of the Rwanda Green Fund, a financing vehicle for public and private investments to accelerate and provide growth capital to high-impact green ventures. The World Bank has been a key financier as well.
For accessing the resources, there are a mix of them. Certainly, partners like the World Bank, all of that comes through the Ministry of Finance and a priority set of activities that are agreed upon every 3 years through the country partnership framework. That really guides the areas that the country wants to engage with partners like the World Bank and other development partners as well. And then from there, trying to prioritize and scale these initiatives. So some of this is done through budget support, development policy lending, where the country implements certain set of policy reforms, laws, etc., that then make it more competitive and able to attract more financing. So a lot of these are happening in many countries. Separate, you have these investment project financing that's done by sector, really trying to mobilize either investments in infrastructure, as I mentioned, healthcare, education, and increasingly also on environment and natural resources. So that's another area. And then certainly technical support. But several countries in the region, they are able to access financial markets themselves. Oftentimes, it is a bit more costly than the borrowing that they can do from multilateral development institutions like the World Bank and others. And important to highlight also the role that IDA has, and this is for the least developed countries. But basically, 30% of that funding is grants, okay, where countries don't have to pay it back, and the other 70% is very concessional, meaning very low interest rates that you have to pay on that borrowed amount, and you pay it over many decades. So the tenor of that investment is, long term. And the goal is similar to what, South Korea has done, India, many other countries, to really invest in their development so that in 30 years or 40 years, their, economic output is much, much higher. And they're able to make those payments on those loans when they're due much easier because their economy is robust. They've invested in their population, in the core structure of the entire economy in their countries.
The potential of green economy in Rwanda is not just a vision, it's a reality in the making. By investing in a sustainable future and embracing climate resilience, Rwanda is setting a powerful example for the rest of Africa and the world. As the nation continues to harness its natural resources responsibly and innovate in green technologies, the benefits will drip across all sectors. A sustainable future is within reach, and Rwanda is leading the charge, proving that economic growth and sustainability can go hand in hand.